I've got our chassis edge. I'm going to separate out our chassis from the rest of it. Right, so this is our chassis edge. So there's a couple of bits inside here that we need to remove. Right, and we also have to remove these. This is our chassis edge. Then here we've got our internal supports, which also have like sort of like leaf springs in them. Right, and then we on this one we've still got the top support for the back of the chassis and our bottom cover plate. Now they also come with a quartering jig in the chassis for doing the wheels that you just basically screw together and then quarter your wheels in those, but I don't use them, don't need to. That bit there used to come attached to that and you folded it down, so I don't know why they've changed that. Right, so we need, let's put that to the side because we need to get the stuff that we need out of here. So now I think how I'm going to set this camera up to show you guys how I do this, because normally I use the vise and you guys are sitting in the vise, but we might find a way. Right, so we've got our wooden block and we've got our edge fold there. What we're going to do is we're just going to hold this upside down. We're still lined up. And we're just going to press and fold. Got that one good. This side's going to be a bit different. Same thing again, fingers right there in the fold line. So all we've done is just basically had one side pinched under the board and just one side pinched under the board and just rolled that over. Got one side, and then the other side, turn it around and hit it from the inside and just get it started and then push it over with your fingers. So now we have our chassis. Now we're just testing, making sure it's nice and square, bottom to top, a little bit over on that one, so we just pull that one back just a little bit, pull it back a little bit too far, we look at it down from, how do I get you guys at angle, looking from down there, roll that a little bit, there we go, so nice and square right along the bottom, through the middle. So our next stage is the internal supports. So there's two little locating tags, we'll go to that side first. So there's two little locating tags, locating holes through the back of the edge here. So it goes through the edge and then through that little internal support that we put in. So you can see it on that side actually, even better. So there's a gap there, and then that just holds them in place, so we can get a couple of bits of security with some solder on those and lock them into place, and then we're good to go. We can carry on. Because once they're done, then we can drop these ones in place, which go in there and in there once we fold down the brake hangers. So I'll turn on the iron, get that up to temperature, a little bit of flux. In fact, let me find the instructions so I can show you this. Alright, so here's our chassis. So we're going to put these ones here in, and then we're going to put a nut on the front one, which goes underneath. That's for supporting the cylinders. So we're going to get it through and get all this done and get that ready. Soldering iron's hot. Right, the flux on the other one on the other side. What we're going to do is, which side's flowed probably better? That side has. So we're just going to heat that up. And that one is now out. We've got good alignment in there. Now that that can't move, I'm going to reinforce the bottom. And already that's stiffened up that chassis quite a bit. Before we go any further, I'm going to get a little bit of solder down in the fold where we've folded, just to secure those folds, so there's no way in future, say if the model's pulled apart, to have, say, wheel sets and things replaced, or it drops, there's going to be no way that that chassis can actually snap and come apart. Righto, so this sort of thing, this is where we refer with the instructions. Always refer to the instructions on things like this, because if you get a bad chassis, your model's not going to run. So we've done step 1, which was fold the chassis. We've done step 2, which was fit the internal strengthener inside the chassis. Number 3 is that nut. So we need to pull the edges out again. I'll just put the planes there for now. So that's this one here. Might as well take all the parts off needed for the chassis. Righto. Now if everything lines up perfectly like this, so we're still going to fold this end down, but if everything is done properly on this chassis, that should just drop in like that and be a perfect fit along those little cutouts. Drops in beautifully. Happy with that. So we'll just clean up any of those little burrs. Right, so this is where we need our toothpick, which we've got. Where did I put that toothpicks? So that will sit there like that, and that'll get soldered from underneath inside the chassis. Basically just solder it up and through here. That's where your screw hole from your chassis to your inside your boiler goes, which locks the front of the locomotive to the chassis. This bit here that we're going to solder in now is step 4. So we've done the chassis folded, that's 1. Internal supports soldered in place, brake hangers hanging, that's 2. 3 is putting the nut on the underside of that for the cylinders, and 4 is mounting that in place. And I always do it on any side, so I always fix on any side that's actually giving me a little bit of grievance compared to the rest. So you get that side fixed first. Well, I get that side fixed first. I've got some pretty good runs of solder in there. might get some at the back. Looking pretty good so far, isn't it? Right, now step 5 is the motor mount. So we're just going to file and clean up those tags. So I've got the rest of it right. Yep. Right, so just so you can see, so these little slots there, and on the other side, just there, is where this goes in. So you put this in and twist it, and it locks. Line it up, pop. So it locks into those slots. Now I generally just secure that with a bit of solder. Step 6 is this one. So the way this works, so it drops in like that on top, but this needs to be bent in and curved out, and we're just going to kick that out just a little bit. Same with the other side, kick that out a little bit, so that when we bring those together, they don't touch. Oh, that's what's not lining up. I didn't file those out of the way. Righto, so I've got the pressure cord. I was too busy trying to fit that back plate and to get it bent and shaped right. So we're at the stage now where if we had horn blocks, we could make sure we got plenty of free movement up and down for those on the springs, and we could quarter the wheels and have them fitted with the bottom plate on, and then we could carry on and fit the cylinders and the Baker valve gear and all the rest of it. So I think what we'll do is we'll leave that at that one, because what are we at? So we got all the way to number 7, which was fitting this. It was number 7 on the list. So what would be 8? If the bottom plate is 11, oh yeah, so 8 is assemble the horn blocks and the washers and things. Because if we jump over, it starts off again at number 14, which is the reversing arm frame. So we might have to do something else between now and then. Righto. got some good news. These turned up on the Friday. We got the horn blocks, so we're able to carry on. Thank you very much, Roger. And cheers to Jaden for sorting that out, and for Roger to get them sent away pretty quick. So we're going to open those up. So we've got plenty of those. So we'll now separate them from the tape and put them in a bag. They're very well packaged. They weren't going anywhere. So I'll take 4 of those. So those 4 washers are going to go over the lead driving wheel and the last driving wheel. Well, not over, but on the axles. Yeah, so all I'm doing is just cutting off the little tags off the washers. Take our wheels. Right, so we need the one with the spline on it, and then we need the main drivers. Right, so lead drivers, main drivers. Your main driver, where your gearbox is going to go on, they've got the larger counterweights. Right, so all I'm going to do now is just check that the horn blocks go on and rotate cleanly in the axles. Yep, cool. And then I'm also going to check them in their position on the chassis to make sure they both slide evenly on the side that they're on. So that's the fireman's side, this will be the driver's side. Nice and loose. So I can now go ahead and put that wheel set together. And they are just a press fit. I have a feeling this is going to record you guys upside down, but if this doesn't work, I'll leave this out and I'll talk over it. Right. Need a smaller gap. Right. got that started. So we just want to give it a couple of taps to get it through. Just gone through. So now, just holding the wheel on the outside, with my thumb over the thing, we want to get it over the little teeth on the axle, nice and centered. So we've got one horn block on that side, and we want one horn block. Where is it? There. One horn block on that side. Now it's about here that you can look at doing your quartering. So if we set that at, say, the 6 o'clock position, well in your case, if you're watching this bit, that's at your 12 o'clock position, then we want to set that at either 9 o'clock position or your 3 o'clock position for the cranks. And it's basically just the same thing. We push that axle through a little bit. And we're just going to give it a couple of taps to get it started. Get that onto hard metal so it can't push through any further than it is. Right, I think we'll reposition you guys now, because you're basically going to repeat the whole thing for the whole wheel set. So I'll reposition you guys in the vise. So we need to get into the etch, because we're going to need the base plate, which is on, is it on that edge, or is it on the last edge? Pretty sure it's on the last edge. There it is. So we need this one here, and we've got to fold these tabs over, because they're what keep the horn blocks in place. I wonder if I can get that in there. Yep, done. So there's our base plate. I'll just zoom out a little bit. Now, one thing you'll notice is on this, again, it's got the little grooves in here for your fold lines. Don't fold them towards a groove, because they will not lay flat on here. So turn it over and fold them back to the flat and solder them, because if you fold them that way, they're only going to go just past 90 degrees. They won't lay flat. They won't lay flat on the top, so remember that. But we're going to just clean up the ends where we had those tabs. like so. Here's what the horn blocks will sit on. I mean, you don't even need pliers, they've been pretty easy. Just take it easy, because they will snap off, and then you've got to try and solder them in the right place. Just like that. Right, we have our solder here. A little bit more flux. Nice clean iron. Get some preheat going. And that's just run all in under there. So what we're doing is I'm just heating one side of that, let's call it the block, and then putting the solder on the other side of the block, and it'll draw it through. Just like that. Yeah, so on that, so I'm putting the iron on this side of the block, alright, and then I'm putting the solder on this side of the block, and this solder and iron just pulls it through underneath it, so you get a nice clean bit of sweating between the things. It's still quite hot, so put it up there, allow that to cool. Here goes our springs. So these are our springs. They're all on top of that. So we're going to unroll one end and slide individual springs off as we need them. So we're going to do the front set first. And the last thing you want is to compress it and have it fling out on you. Right, first spring is in place. The other thing I want to do is, have I got, find a way to also locate that chassis so it can't move. This is where, say, a chassis jig could come in handy, because you can just lock that into your jig. Take our next spring. Now I find actually putting the spring all the way up into the tweezers the easiest way, so you can control which direction it's going to go, if it's going to go anywhere. Right, so that one's now in place. It's got two front springs in. Now we're going to drop in our wheel set. With those little divots in the horn blocks at the top. There we go. So we've now got springing. Now we're going to do the driver and drop that in. we're not safe yet. We do not want to bump that, because if that topples over, we could lose all the springs and not know where they went. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tip this bag out away from that chassis. And pull out the 3 screws that we need from there. Oh, bugger. Try and line that up again. Righto, so I've got a couple of parts separated here. So we've got our rear trailing truck shackles. We've got our valve gear bracket. And our control arm bracket. So that'll sit there like that, right? Just like that. I'll zoom that out a little bit so you guys can see. Right. So that gets mounted in with a screw, right? But you've also got, you may end up having a bit of a clearance issue between the back of that casting and the flange of the wheel. So what we do is we indent the back corner up in here, just underneath the bracket, just to make room for that compression of the suspension under the weight of the model, so you don't end up getting a short. So what we're going to do is just mark that where we need to file it out to make that indentation. Where's marker? There. So that is right about there. Double check that. Because you've also got to make it wide enough for when that wheel's moving side to side as well. So we've made our marks. So just with the cutting disc, I'm going to slot into those where I've marked. But before I remove any of the material, we're going to drill our hole for our screw to mount that to the chassis. Oh, I forgot to press record. So, let me go over what we did. So, we've drilled our hole, right? We've then drilled these holes in the centre, there and there. Right, we drilled them to 1 millimetre, and then we tapped them with our taps to the correct size. Which one was it? Which was 1.4, I think. .4 M at 1.4. So we've tapped it, threaded it there's one thing you guys will need probably when you look at building these sort of kits is some taps of varying sizes. So now we can carry on and we can remove the material that we marked out earlier on those. So I'll need to use the cutting disc again rather than using the hand file. Well, typical, I've done it again. I forgot to press record, but here. So we've got our front bogie mount in place, but it's not fixed, so it can slide back and forwards at the moment because we don't know how much clearance we're going to have once the cylinders go on to how much travel we've got in our bogie set. So we are able to move that bracket forwards and backwards to where it's at its maximum range of motion, and then we can just solder one side just to lock it in place so it can't move, but yet can be desoldered and pulled out if need be. So we've got that sorted. Actually, is that forwards of where it needs to be? Right, so that allows for that. Hang on. Right. So there are our rear equalising bars for the rear bogie when that gets fitted. And these bits here, we bend out just a little bit so we've got enough side to side play as a bogie pivots, because it's only a single axle. Same level. Yep. Yep, same height, so that's good. Right, we've also got the other shackle. So you got your shackles on that one, but now we need shackles on these ones, which are these shackles. So we've got to split them, fit them, and put them on. So we're going to need the other one, because the other one's still in that bag. Anyway. So yeah, we've got our equalising bars on. We'll have to cut that mounting screw for the front bogie to the right place so that there's actually got enough movement, because that's touching. What else? Oh, then we got the what do they call that part? It's just another chassis bit, but that's what holds the pin for the tender to locomotive connection. And that just goes on the back there and gets pushed into place. But I won't push it into place because it'll be a bugger of a thing to get out of there until it's right. What else have we got to do in the way of the chassis? So once we get that rear plate on the back, which is step 20, we then move on to 21, which is folding and sweat soldering all the coupling rods together, and then mounting those to the wheels, and then in theory we should have a rolling chassis.